Since 2007, our mobile traffic has grown 150,000%.
The timing is absolutely right for changing the mentality, getting that cultural change through, becoming a more software-oriented organization.
Platforms will democratize IoT.
I don't think it's a question of should we do it, it's a when.
Look at how do you take advantage of your software architecture to be able to move across a ubiquitous hardware environment.
5G. It's about capacity and it's about latency. What 5G brings to the picture is the intelligence you add to the base stations.
You will be able to do things that you have never thought you could.
How much do they want to pay and how much the industry on the other side is ready to stay into a certain price structure.
What are they willing to pay for? They are willing to pay for that data sovereignty and security.
A 5G network, especially because the very low latency, it allows people to have immersive content, different kinds of things. They're not fixed to a spot.
5G is actually driving the uptake of NFV and operators.
Virtual reality, augmented reality, and finding new ways of getting content to customers is a great opportunity.
To make 5G not just a delivery pipe, but also a profitable business for all involved.
Hello everyone, and welcome to TelecomTV's Super Panel from Barcelona. Thank you all for coming this evening at the end of what is yet another long day at Mobile World Congress. I'm Guy Daniels, Editorial Director at TelecomTV, and up for debate this evening, a 5G reality check, making the business case for 5G. We have 5 guests with us tonight, and a couple of surprise guests from the audience from vertical markets. I'm delighted that once again we are sponsored by Hewlett, Packard Enterprise and Intel. This is, in fact, our 10th Super Panel. Our 4th one from Barcelona, but our 10th one. We are getting through these debates faster than the 3GPP gets through cellular generations. Oh, everyone loves an industry joke, and there's more of them coming. Speaking of which, with the industry gathering in Barcelona again for the annual MWC event, it's perhaps inevitable that our subject was going to be 5G. It is the topic of the year yet again, and no doubt will be the topic of the year for the next few years. But don't anyone dare mention 6G. Not even you, Mr. President. We've got enough on our plate with 5G, haven't we? In fact, we are well and truly at the point of broad cultural awareness of 5G now. Some of you may know of a radio station in the UK called Classic FM. It's very popular. They've just started running some house ads on the radio. And believe it or not, to quote the actress in the house ad, she says, "Personally, I don't think we need another G. I've already got Gershwin. I've already got Gunnar. I've already got Glass. I've already got Goretzky. Oh, Grieg, how could I possibly forget Grieg? There's my 5 composers." You know, if a radio station for a mature audience of classical music-loving people is making fun and understanding 5G, then I guess we have really arrived at the awareness and the point. 5G now is ready to go, even without handsets. You know, we are aware and eager to go. So let's just go, shall we? Let's introduce our guests on stage. From my immediate right, yet again, once again, we have Caroline Chan, who is VP Data Center Group and General Manager of the Network Business Incubator Division at Intel. Thanks for coming along, because your opinions have been shaping these super panels for a number of years now. Next to Caroline, we have Mike Haberman, VP of Network Engineering at Verizon. Good to meet Mike. Thanks for joining us on the super panel.
Pleasure being here.
Next to Mike is Arnaud Vamparys, who is Senior Vice President, Radio Networks and 5G Lead at Orange. And another regular guest, Robert Boyanovsky, VP Enterprise Mobility at AT&T. who is very shy in retiring. And next to Robert on the end, last but not least, is Justin Hotard, who is General Manager and SVP Volume Business at Hewlett Packard Enterprise.
I think that's
No. Usually on super panels, we have problems getting our message across to the audience because they're otherwise engaged. But I think tonight we've got their attention. The first commercial 5G networks are now being deployed. User devices, mobile devices are about to come to market. New digital services are about to launch. 5G is upon us. But there are questions about the business case that still need resolving. Let's consider the case for investment first, if we can. Where do we see the biggest investments from CSPs and indeed enterprises in 5G infrastructure happening? Where are we going to see that initial big investment? Who would like to pop first? Mike, have a
sure.
pick on
that. Sure, I'll take that. At least I'll take a shot at it. As far as the investment, you're seeing a lot of investment currently in the 4G technology. So that is by far a complementary technology, and that's going to continue to grow. So that will be, something that we'll continue to do, continue to evolve. Because, as you know, as 4G evolves, it does have a path to 5G. Now, as far as investment in 5G and the business models, we have invested. We do have a commercial service that we offer. We call it 5G Home. And we're basically using the 5G link to provide the broadband connection. So that's been one use case application that right out of the gates, it sort of made sense. And as the technology evolves, you can move it towards mobile as you move towards 5G NR.
Okay. Arnaud.
Like mentioned by Mike, we are investing a lot as Orange in 29 countries in Europe and Africa to enhance through fiber and 4G today. So when we look to 5G investment, we will add three main applications. The first one, we will put 5G on top of 4G for enhanced mobile broadband. The second one, we will use it for fixed wireless access. We do think that on some area it could be complementary to our fiber deployment. And last but not least, we do believe that 5G is a real enabler for the digital transformation of our B2B customers. So we are working a lot there to see which kind of investment we can do for B2B premises for their digital transformation.
Well said. I tend to agree there. In business, AT&T Business, we've invested in our mobile network. We launched our 5G mobile network last year in 12 markets. We are very much aligned on a fixed product for 5G. And then a little bit different on the end of your statement, but I think the customers that we all talk to in the enterprise are looking for an edge compute solution. So we are in early stages of deployment of our multi-access edge compute solutions, which really unpacks these use cases that our enterprises are trying desperately to get to.
And Justin, from the vendor's perspective, where are we likely, from your views, to see this initial investment?
I think it's pretty consistent with what all of our customers just highlighted, but I would say a couple of things. One is the infrastructure readiness, all the way back into the core to be able to enable the applications and services that our customers run today to support these new business models or emerging business models. And then I see a lot of testing at the edge, and I would call it testing at the edge in the sense of trying to iterate with some of our collective enterprise customers and finding those business models, delivering that value proposition, figuring out the business case. And it seems, it's in many ways is what we see in many other parts of IT, which is an iterative approach, which I think is new for this industry, but very critical to long-term value creation in 5G.
Caroline, do you have a pop at the investment?
Yeah, so I think I pretty much agree with everybody said that starting the infrastructure, but the one key difference is that we notice our end users start asking for not just infrastructure, but infrastructure that is upgradable, that's virtualized, that's more cloud native, and inherently carries the edge compute element. In fact, I'm really happy to say that this week there will be an announcement coming out from a greenfield operator that built a 100% cloud native network, 4G and upgradable to 5G, where every node is potentially a MET node. I think that brings a tremendous amount of excitement to the industry. I just came from ORAN Summit where AT&T, Verizon, Orange are all on the board. And the idea to why is an open network is important because it fosters innovation, it 5G, I would say, that it will welcome a different type of ecosystem, not the technical ecosystem that we had before. We need developers to come in and start developing applications. So that's why the whole concept of open and faster innovation, edge compute really comes into play.
How will that impact investment from the service providers, having this wider, broader ecosystem? Mike? Is this going to make much difference to your investment patterns by opening out the ecosystem and more players?
I think when you look at it, certainly you can do stuff for your own investment, but you certainly can open it to others. You can use it to third parties, and you could open it also to other larger entities. Because when you think of something like MEC, it is prime real estate in terms of things you can do with it, the applications, the responsiveness. The intelligence you could actually move out of the device if need be and make the devices cheaper.
Thanks. Can we separate the edge from 5G in terms of network investment? I think no. Simple answer.
No, I think for us, what's happening right now when customers are asking about 5G, they bring us in, we just have a deep discussion about what the technology is going to do. And then when you get down into it and peel back some of the technology layers and the complexity, what they want more than anything is their own data, right? They want to manage their applications closer and closer. And the big industrial companies that we talk to have ultra privacy concerns. And the only way you can do that is you break that data down and do a local drop-off and give it to them. And then where the applications come in, right, it's in between where that MEC application is at and that privacy that they get, and in between where that SDN layer is sitting at. So in between is where that development ecosystem is going to sit. And it's really a pathway, right? It's going from the current LTE product set, 5G evolution for us, into 5G. And customers don't necessarily come in and talk to us about the bandwidth. They talk to us about their use case and what they're trying to do with it. And then, with different spectrum and different technologies, we can add bandwidth as they grow.
Yes, it's true that we have different demands from our B2B customer. It could be really on wide area networks when they look to some class of services, or more on the LAN area, that means on the site, when they really on premises want some solutions. So we need to, on this multi-service 5G connectivity, to really design it from the beginning to give access on both sides, local and global.
I just want to add that with 5G, I think all of us need to take more risk. They are always taking risk by investment. We also want to jump in. So I know I've been here a couple of times, and we always talked about industrial. Those are very much valid. Retail, we've done quite a bit with both all three operators here. Recently, we're just going to share with you off stage that with the Supreme Court depenalize sports wagering. So there was an announcement, in fact, I think my blog just went live today, that National Hockey League decided to take that up. So when I looked at it, I don't see it as a sports wagering, I see it as a three principles. Why 5G and edge so go hand in hand. Data acquisition, data analytics, and data monetization. Before, what they did is they put in sensors in the pucks and sensors in the players. They are now getting 2,000 data points per second. So somebody to capture all the data points, analyze the data points, and what they did is they're putting out real-time odds on the phones and iPads and saying, they essentially take the data points and they overlay the video real-time on it. So anybody in the auditorium can bet. And what that happens is you have to do a secure transaction. Right? You say, ready to bet, you push a button, you bet. What is that really? It is. It's a secure transaction. It's something you can very well apply to a fintech industry. So take that learning, take that example, apply to other verticals. This is what I think all of us need to do, is try more things, take more risk, and open up the 5G use cases. Then we can really talk about what is ROI.
If I could add on to that, I think what's unique and different and refreshing when we talk to the ecosystem and all of our partners, they give us feedback that we're doing things differently now, and that's a compliment for us. We're not doing 18-month long-tail development and plunking a tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars of capital and hoping someone buys something. What we're doing is we're partnering with Intel, HPE, and a customer who has a real problem for an outcome that they want. And as we go through those POCs with these customers, proving in the tech, then we peel off our precious capital and build our products out that way.
Let's move on to some what we are now calling a quick fire round, where we're going to ask a very simple question, 60-second answers, so let's keep it as brief as possible. There'll be demerit points for those who go over 60 seconds. I want to ask the question, what infrastructure do we see as essential at the edge and core as we move to 5G? What are the essential infrastructure elements that need to be in place as we make the business case for 5G? And I'm going to start from my far left, so unlucky, Justin, you're going to be number one. We're going to get a little clock going. We're going to have a little 60-second timer. But the question to you is, what infrastructure do you see as essential to make the business case for 5G?
I'd say the attributes of the infrastructure are what are critical. We've got a clock. We've got a countdown clock.
It's a serious business. It's a serious business.
I just used 5 seconds I used 5 seconds describing it. So I think the attributes are critical, and what I mean by that is it's got to be virtualized. It's got to be, I think it has to be ubiquitous to some level, and you have to be able to abstract it up. I mean, if we think about the example of an enterprise user, they want to come in, they want their assurance on security, they want a cloud-like user experience to be able to deploy their application, and they want to have the flexibility to move that application depending on the business value. So it may be more in a core environment, it may be down at the edge. I think those are the attributes that I see as essential. I mean, obviously there's core building blocks in 5G, the radio technology, some of the other elements that are going to be necessary, but the difference to me is this looks a lot more like a distributed virtualized IT network than it does a traditional telecom network.
Look at that. Look at that.
Got it.
Maxed out that time. Robert.
All right, cue the clock. Let's see how this goes.
So same to you. What investments are?
I think it's a lot simpler than what my friend said. There it goes, 60 seconds. You need an HPE box sold to the customer, and then you need AT&T's VNF riding on it.
Look at that. Stop the clock. Stop the clock.
With an Intel processor on the inside.
Oh, too late. Sorry. You blew it.
Want me to replay it? I got 30 seconds to go.
Arnaud, come on. What do you think?
We need a telco-grade infrastructure. So we are operating as a range in 29 countries in Europe, Africa. We have more than 100 network elements today in each network. So when you look to that, we really need to industrialize, of course. We can do it with Intel, HP, and really build a telco grade. So it will take quite some time and effort for that. So we need a bit of defragmentation in our industry to achieve that. The second element I could share, if you want to sell this multi-service connectivity, especially for the digital transformation of our B2B customers, we definitely need to show what we are achieving. The SLA we can achieve, a service level agreement, so we need a bit of tool to be able to show what is the real quality we have achieved on our infrastructure. So if we mix the two, telco-grade infrastructure and SLA tools, I think together we can create value for our B2B customers.
Excellent. Even better. Even better. Even better. Even better. No pressure at all, Mike, at all. But
I certainly, I'm more of an engineer, so what's required is you need to get fiber. You need to have deep fiber to be able to move around information. First thing you need. Second thing is you need to have space out at the edge, right? So our cell sites typically provides a lot of that space to enable it. And then you need to virtualize all the functions of the network, the core elements, the control elements, really to bring that core from basically a centralized location in the mid part of the United States out to the edge of the network in order to really give that latency that's required. And then of course when you do this, the most important thing is you need to be able to orchestrate it well, right? Because you need to know the applications, what they're designed, what they're trying to do. So for those IT guys out there figuring out what IT applications and how they're going to be more efficient, you can do that with orchestration and having your distributed architecture. So it's a whole different dimension coming up.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed. Mission Impossible time. Caroline, you have 60 seconds. Starting from
now. So I think, first of all, us in the telco, I count myself in the telco, we started to thinking more like the IT, more like the cloud guys. Number one, common API. We have to run that common API so people do not write this over and over again. And then the other thing is, what about function as a service? Look at how the cloud guys are offering their service. It's not that you buy it, you have to pay for everything up front. So we're spending a lot of time doing function as a service, enabling that at the silicon level. It's a security at the silicon level. I'm actually recently launching a project on blockchain on the edge. How do we ensure that the enterprise truly trusts the things we move in? Because there's an inherent security concern. Think about the things that we're doing with that, on the gambling side, has to be a secure blockchain. Oh. I did it! I did it!
You said you couldn't do it.
I owe everyone lots of money now. I can't believe it. Incredible. Thank you very much. You're all great sports for doing that, by the way.
Later.
Great sport.
They were bad about me not making it, right?
Let's move on to strategies and markets. What do we think are the best strategy for early movers in 5G? And what are the risks involved, perhaps, in going early? Now, we have two North American operators here. It's probably fair. Robert, if I can start with yourself. I mean, why move early? What's the advantage here?
Well, one of the interesting things for us is the standards were being contributed to from our company. We were, ink dry and in market in 6 months, and that's not typical, right? So we are definitely forward pushing to be early and first in market. That gives us a competitive advantage. Our strength is in our mobility services, and that's where we went first. I do think you learn a lot when you do that as well, right? You're able to iterate and grow kind of your team, your capability, your knowledge about what to look out for as you go forward. From there, I think you want to really listen to your customer in the business side or enterprise side. I think that's where the innovation comes from, right? They want to talk about 5G, what it can do for them. And I think putting that investment down early with customers and really listening, that's where you get a quick return and get the most benefit out of it.
Mike, what about Verizon?
Sure. Definitely a strategy. Being first is important. We've got a lot of knowledge out of the system. For those of you who've been around for a little while, we had the largest commercial trial in 2017, followed by a commercial deployment in 2018. With real customers paying money for the service. So that's enabled the engineers, enabled to build the service, and that's also allowed us, because when you deploy a commercial system that early, you know what it takes to go into the local communities, zoning boards, in order to implement what you need to implement. And lastly, it also allows you to just influence the whole ecosystem. We've been very aggressive creating what we call our 5G labs, because building the network's fine, but the question is, do you have the ecosystem to go along to it? So we have created the 5G labs to bring both the innovators and the companies together, really get this thing cooking, to get those applications going. Okay.
Arnaud, perhaps we can bring Europe into play here.
I'm not sure that the race is the right things to do, because we already have a notion of 4G as ambient connectivity, and we invest a lot in fiber 4G. So the real question is which difference of quality of experience we can achieve for our customer when we introduce 5G. So in that sense, it's more useful to have first a pre-commercial step, and we are doing that as a range in Europe with 17 5G orange cities. At the arrival of the first smartphone, you can see on our booth, live, and with that you can really design something where you feel a difference when you introduce it on the market. And that's why on enhanced mobile broadband we think we need this pre-commercial and then this commercial phase in 2020. It's not the same for when you have a rupture, a revolution, like we have on the 26 GHz with centimeter wave, when you can do a fiber-like experience, or rupture when you can, with a new core network, really have a full specialized services for your B2B customers. So we are very humble on that, and we want really to have the time of a learning curve. When we introduce 5G, the customer will feel the difference.
The three of you together, you represent very large CSPs with a lot of resource, internal resource. What about the many service providers who are a lot smaller, can't afford to move fast? Is there an alternative strategy for them, the ones who are kind of wait and see?
Yeah, I mean, that is the way it played out with LTE and the other technology. So that path has certainly been gone down before. And they tend to, smaller providers, they communicate with you and they take learnings. And then, most importantly, whenever you're introducing a new technology, I mean, personally, I've been through three versions of this: 2G, 3G, 4G, now 5G coming up. The software we work with on with the vendors, a lot of that can be ported to the other carriers, and you have to go through some of the learning pains of basically working on the code to make it a usable system. So they will get the benefit of that.
Arnaud, any advice for the smaller operators?
We are operating in many countries, so we have the chance to be able to test any vendors, any kind of solutions. And even here on the booth, you can see many solutions up and working on live networks. So for us, it's really to keep this interoperability, to have best of breed, and really to take time to build this telco-grade infrastructure that we will definitely need if we want to give access to all sectors of economy on 5G. It will take time, but the standard is there. We have a good one. Just one worldwide perspective. It's first time we have just one standard. So we really want to benefit from that in the next decade, 2020, 2030.
Yeah. Robert, I mean, integration challenges are quite considerable. When you make this move to 5G, there's obviously different strategies and ways to do this, but can we minimize the problem somehow?
Well, I think the first thing you got to do is get on the evolution path, right? So take advantage of all the technology that is out there today on the LTE network and evolve it to an experience that a customer is going to resonate with. And the smaller CSP question there, I think they need to be attuned to what's happening. Like the last several years, we've been on this software and virtualization of our core. 75% of our network now is software-based, not network-based. That gives us a ton of flexibility. And going back to the MEC application, that software exists today on LTE. So we talk about 5G, how fast is it, ultra-low latency, how secure it is, and how it's going to differentiate. When it comes down to it, it's the software that's inside that's giving them the ability to control these experiences.
And Caroline, we're also seeing the emergence of some greenfield operators who haven't got any legacy equipment to worry about, such as Rakuten, who you know very well.
Yep, that's true. And they had the advantage of starting a greenfield, no legacy. So they launched a cloud-native network. And actually Wednesday, their CEO is going to formally announce this, and I'd really... we got a lot of learning. We've been working with them for a long time, last 8 months to get this going. We got a lot of learning what's the right thing to do, and it's never always going to be easy, but clearly I think the fact that once it's cloud native, you really run it more like an IT, so the automation is built in from day one. You don't have the legacy OSS, BSS. This really is targeted to day one as a service-oriented network. I think that this is, to us, all of our ecosystem, we can learn a lot from that.
Great. Should we move on to another quick-fire round, because I know you love it so much. Let's get the clock ready, and we'll move from the strategies to some of the markets and the vertical markets. What I'd like to ask now is, which use cases and markets or industries do we see as having the greatest leverage from 5G? Unfair to start with Justin again, so let's move it down to Robert if we can. And Robert, we're going to get the clock on you to start with. But you're our enterprise expert on the panel, so what are the markets we think are going to benefit from 5G?
Well, from the product side, we've had several announcements. Recently, we announced AT&T Stadium as the first connected 5G stadium. We actually have our system in place already. Rush Hospital in the healthcare, we're going to turn that up here shortly, but another announcement. Leading customers in every vertical on this planet want to lead their space. They're not sure what they're actually going to do and light up their use cases, but they're calling in and they're talking to us about what those are. Manufacturing, we announced Samsung Austin Semiconductor as another first 5G manufacturing facility. And as you walk the floor of MWC, just about every other booth has a manufacturing robot arm that's doing low latency edge solutions. What's exciting about that relationship for us is we launched it, we said we're going to be the first one putting the tech in, and with them, a company like that has the ability to produce the tech, it's going to really throw off some really interesting use cases. But from there, I think hospitality, sports, as Carolyn mentioned, down the line.
Great. I'm afraid the clock ran out of time, though.
I know,
we have to mark it down as a minus one there. We'll settle up later. But great answer. Thank you very much. Arnaud, what about the use cases and markets we're likely to see?
In fact, this question, for me, I asked it to Orange Business Services. It's a big part of our company today, so they have a chance to work with each sector of economy from a long time. And first, what was very useful was to start to put some 4G, 5G in advance in some places for this sector of economy to come and to test. So we did that for automotive, where they have been able to play with 4G, 5G to see a difference. We did that for industry, on a production side to play and to see what are the difference. We are doing right now that thanks to some European funds on healthcare as well, on media sector and so on. So we try each type. Of course, some of them are a bit more advanced to understand what they want to do with this connectivity, but what they need is as well the objects. So to really put 4G, 5G connectivity in, and we know that will take some time. So that's why we need really to understand what is a generic and what will be specific to each sector.
I see we have suddenly found a buzzer.
It's a good one.
It sounds suspiciously like someone I know at the back here.
So Mr. Daniels, we went back to the judges and we had to go back and credit AT&T with 25 unused seconds. So their second answer was appropriate. Orange Communications, strong content, but a little bit of a penalty there.
Look at that, live judging. Thank you.
He's even got a camera as well. Can't believe it. Mike, use cases. Sure.
Well,
you can't do worse. Come on.
I'll tell you, some people have called this the fourth industrial revolution. I don't think that's very far off because this is going to hit all sorts of entities. It's almost like you can pick your vertical that you're going to go down. I mean, look at education. I mean, it can turn education on its end to be able to show people things without leaving the classroom. We talked about manufacturing. You talk about real-time enterprises with the slice of the network. Nobody's really talked about the slices of the network yet. The fact that when you get to a standalone core, you can actually individualize pricing plans, characteristics for each individual user. So you can have 100 million slices out there if you need to. So don't forget, that is a big part of 5G, and you're going to see that impact all sorts of verticals. You got autonomous vehicles, you got medical, you got manufacturing, you got healthcare, and the list goes on and on. So this is going to be really exciting because these companies are out innovating with us right now.
Excellent. Thank you, Mike. And time to spare. Good time to spare. Lovely. Caroline, same to you. What are the use cases in industries, markets that we think are going to be the real beneficiaries of 5G?
Actually, what we're seeing right now is actually cloud gaming, believe it or not. There is we've been actually working with several cloud gaming providers. If you come to our booth, you'll see them. And we believe that the console is going to go away. A lot of these games are actually going to come, instead of running the cloud, click close to the cloud, give you the user experience without relying on an expensive console. So many of the game makers are working with us, and we're talking to them about how to make that very seamless experience. The other one I have to agree is sports. It's a smart venue. Actually, I invited Hilton Worldwide to come and be our guest. Would love to hear from them. How do you, because I spend a lot of time on the road, and I really wanted the people, if I go into a frequent guest of that hotel chain, I would like them to know who I am and give me personalized service, and not every single time have to call them and say, give me my bathrobe. They should have known that. So that's what I like to see.
Lovely. Bang on the button. Bang on the button. Just a hard act to follow.
Yeah, I think
but you're going to give it best shot. Use cases and markets for 5G.
Actually, I'm just waiting for the timer to start.
Yeah, don't mess up the time.
Yeah. So I think, I think we've covered many of them, and there's a lot. There's a lot of talk and noise in the market about AR, VR, and autonomous vehicles. I think some of these use cases are further out in the distance. The real value, where I see the real value being created, is actually in some of these B2B and B2C use cases where we're solving immediate business problems. And what I would say is, just back to some of the earlier conversation, it comes when you take an ecosystem approach. So you start with a customer, you bring in the ecosystem between the operator, a partner like us, bring in Intel's technology, and we bring together a real solution. And I think that's where we're going to start to see the traction earliest. It may not be the things that are catchy for press headlines, but it's some of these real-world business applications. That's why smart venues are taking off, because the ROI exists. It's why some of the enterprise customers with logistics or manufacturing are seeing value.
We'll give you that. We'll give you that. Thank you, Justin. Thanks to everyone for that. Coming on to the all-important return on investments, because we're all businesses. Is it possible, as we make this 5G journey, is it possible to smooth out our CapEx and OpEx impact? Can we eliminate some of these spikes that we get in this industry? There's cellular generations, this 10-year life cycle that we always go on. Is this something we live with, or is this something that we can work to reduce? Mike, please.
Sure. I think we've actually taken pride in smoothing out our CapEx. If you look at our past history over the past 10, 15 years, we've actually been pretty smooth. That's actually one of the reasons we've been able to stay very consistent with our offering, albeit upgrading existing architecture and always investing in the future. So when you look at our financials and how we've done over the past number of years, we've actually been fairly smooth and kept it sort of in line with what you would expect. So,
Arnaud, what do you think?
Same, we see quite a smooth transition. In fact, when you look to a return of investment, the key things is to avoid to have spectrum fragmentation. That means one spectrum from one usage. So really to be able to add a different usage on the same public network and then to offer that to everyone, because it's that way that you can really deploy largely with a good coverage in your country.
Yeah, I think as a product guy with a couple of network guys in here, I think we would love nothing more to spend tons and tons of capital to build the next G. The practical matter is, in a capital company like ourselves, capital-intensive company, when you're throwing off $20 billion of capex, you got to keep it really smooth. And so. That's one thing we pride ourselves at AT&T. We manufacture a very solid free cash flow line, and we're very diligent about that. Mike said it earlier, the LTE network is not going away when 5G shows up. There is a lot of runway left there. So we're sprinkling in the technology and investing in the future, but also building out the LTE capability to give customers an experience that they want.
Right. Let's have another quick fire round, because we want to move on. We want to move on and talk to our industry guests here. Arnaud, perhaps we can start to you. We'll come around Arnaud, Mike, Caroline, and go back around again. When can we see payback? When can we expect payback? What is the investment cycle for 5G likely to be? Arnaud, please give it a shot.
In fact, today we are investing more in fiber and 4G. So we will have, as we mentioned, a smooth transition to that. So for us, what is important, that it will generate more consumer, business customer on our network, more type of objects. And of course, for that, we really need, and definitely, as mentioned, change a bit the technology to make sure that we have the right quality of services for each type of object, for each type of sector, for each business process. And then return of investment will come. For sure.
Brilliant. Thank you.
For the previous infraction, Orange Communications. Orange Communications is back in the green.
Mike, return on investment and payback.
Certainly right now, I mean, the return on investment's happening right now. Again, we have live commercial service we have since October, so that's actually already started for us. Really what's going to help it happen, though, is our network is a multi-purpose network. So we're going to have more than just mobility. We're going to have more than just home. We're going to have IoT and other devices in there. So you're going to have a lot of vehicles that are going to be pitching in their business model to help return the investment as quickly as possible. So we're just expecting that to explode. You look at the way 5G is designed, it's not just designed for a smartphone, it's designed for a deep density of IoT devices. And you're going to start to see that explode.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mike. Well in the time, as you can see from the clock. Well in the time. Caroline.
So I would like to see is have a different ways of a business model. There's CapEx you have to spend. You definitely have to set up towers and so on. But just like Mike said, that the network now is not just serving smartphone. The more we can get enterprise and come in and pitch in and pay for some of these, the more we can work closely with the cloud service providers. They actually probably had incentive to also make the network run well. I sit on the TIP board, and the TIP is trying to do that. It's trying to bring the IT practice, the IT know-how, and the monetization onto the network so that the network ecosystem do not just pay and hope for the monthly payoff, but rather actually utilizing the IT side, the cloud side, to make the entire ROI come to fruition. So I strongly like to see that aspect being called out in 5G.
Great. More support for TIP as well, please. More support for TIP. Justin, payback and return on investment. What's your thoughts?
I think the model, the IT model, is very different. And as we're seeing the evolution, we're starting to see customers talk to us differently about their investment cycle. The IT model, if you think about it, tends to be on a 3 to 4 year refresh. Tends to be very linked to the application and the service. So that's going to create some different pressures, some different needs for a lot of our operators. The other side of that is we have solutions like GreenLake, which are basically consumption as a service. So as you consume, you grow. As you grow, you consume more. And that flexibility, we talk a lot about CapEx to OpEx, but I think it's the flexibility, that cloud-like model that allows you to be more nimble, are things that we're going to have to see, particularly as we go back and talk about some of the smaller operators that may not be able to make that full investment in infrastructure up front, but need to be able to follow a business case or an opportunity within a vertical market in their specific geography. Those types of models and some of the innovations we're bringing there, we think are compelling.
Excellent. Bang on the button. Robert, last but not least.
For us at AT&T, we have a 10-year business case that we sign up for, multi-billions of dollars of investment, long-range planning. And with that, the reality is we manage by the quarter. And some of the business models that are unique now that are coming out are more partner-based. So we're open-minded about different go-to-market models between our companies. And when we find customers that have, a solution in mind or an outcome they're trying to solve for, that's usually when we get the quickest way to a return, where we solve a business outcome with a partner with multiple solutions in there. So I would say that, quickly we've got a long-range view of this, but we try to be smart and get that return sooner rather than later.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Robert. That's it for our quick-fire round. Thank you very much. Great insights, information and news there. That's good. Of course, driving all this are our customers and enterprise customers in these vertical markets. We have great hope for them with 5G. And I'm pleased to say in our audience we have representatives from a couple of verticals here. And I'd like to invite them one at a time onto our podium to ask a question of our guests. First, if I can invite John Flack from Hilton to come up. Please, this is John Flack from Hilton. John, you have a question for our service providers or panel
I do. Thank you. Very insightful. My first question is, this is a wonderful hotel, but can we have this at a Hilton next year? Yeah? Okay. All right. So, Caroline, it resonated with me when you said that you are a guest and you're a valued guest and you like the frictionless environment, getting connected automatically and so forth. We've been in the Wi-Fi business and I'm kind of speaking really on behalf of hospitality. We've been in the Wi-Fi business since the early 2000s. In fact, we partnered with Intel on one of the very first Wi-Fi experiences in the lobby of the Hilton, New York back in the early 2000s, and Intel with your Citrino chip set and so forth. So we've been in the business for a long time. We've invested an incredibly a lot of money, and our owners have invested an incredible amount of money into Wi-Fi. We had a period where we had revenue that we were gaining off of Wi-Fi. That's essentially dried up. Essentially, we're giving away Wi-Fi mostly free to all of our customers now, as they expect. So my question is, what is going to be the impact of 5G on Wi-Fi in general? And I have some owners that are even asking the questions or making statements like they made with 3G, 4G, and LTE that this is going to make Wi-Fi go away. I'd like your response on that.
Good question. Who would like to start with Arnaud?
First, Wi-Fi, it's mandatory. We have, of course, we're investing a lot in fiber, so you can imagine for our fiber customers, both consumer or business, we really need to have Wi-Fi to terminate that. And it's the same on the 5G network. We'll use fiber for backhauling. So at the end, what is useful is to have this ambient connectivity, indoor, outdoor, and we need a mix of technologies to achieve that. So what you need to do, perhaps, is to upgrade your Wi-Fi to Wi-Fi 6, and I can give you some contact for that.
Mike, I think you want to respond as well.
Yeah, but certainly the technologies can coexist. I'll give you an example. Our 5G home product, that's the 5G link to the house, then it's distributed through the house via Wi-Fi because all the devices are enabled. So I think it's always going to be there as a part of it, and it's going to evolve in a complementary fashion.
Thank you, Mike. Robert.
It's a very good question. I think the way we look at it and the way customers look at it is there are inherent benefits, technology benefits that sit on cellular that are superior to Wi-Fi. Right? It's better under load, so less jitter. It's got better propagation characteristics. You can put more on, more users on access points. And the cool thing about our network now is it's software based. Now, over a cellular umbrella covering your facilities, your hotels, you can take that data set and drop it into your data center and do what you want with it. That gives you ultimate privacy and the control to do really cool things, like Carolyn said, around your guest experience, right? To take that to another level where you feel really a part of an experience that you can't get anywhere else. And it's the cellular technology over Wi-Fi that some say, make it the Wi-Fi killer. We'll see where that is, where that goes, but I think there's definitely more worth looking into this, topic.
Thank you. Come. We have a bonus answer.
I invited John to come, but I do want to say that recently, a couple of weeks ago, I went on to an IT summit, of a CIO summit by Western Hotel, and I brought forward a prototype that we designed. It's what we call a network in a box. It's about this big. We literally took it through TSA because we told them it's a computer. It looks like a computer. It really functions like a computer. In it, we put in a reference stack of 5G, LTE, and Wi-Fi, plus part of a UPF that's going down. So the control is in the cloud, but the data plane is on there. And it puts in a Movidia, so it has computer vision, has an AI capability, inference, and as well as a Mac. So instantly, it becomes a network in a box, a private network that can be managed by either of these gentlemen and serve exclusively for your hotel. So I think something like that as a prototype could be something we explore.
Thank you very much, Caroline. Justin, would like to add? We've all contributed.
Given we have a large Wi-Fi business in Aruba, of course, I'm a believer in Wi-Fi, and I think it's complementary. And I think if you look at if you think about the services that you deploy, go back 15 years ago when you started deploying Wi-Fi, what were people using it for? Many of those services have actually shifted to your phone, email, web browsing, etc. What are people doing on Wi-Fi in your hotels now? Well, they're streaming media and content. Caroline was talking about gaming. mean, there may be new experiences you can bring to your customers around a more, entertainment experiences that are more immersive than just the television. And that's where I think you're going to see things like Wi-Fi continue to evolve. I think they'll be complementary. There's different challenges with ubiquity and experience that you have to balance. But I expect you're going to see both succeed. And in many ways, if you look at the history, one has kind of created value for the other. So expect that'll continue.
Thanks, Justin. John, hopefully we've given you some good answers. Our guests have given you some good answers, and I'm sure they'll be around after the panel to talk to you on a one-on-one if you want any further information. But hopefully we've helped out there.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Thank you.
We also have a representative from the broadcast and media industry, Mike Crimp, please, CEO of IBC, the International Broadcast Corporation. Thank you very much, Mike.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to ask the question. And it's only just recently the media and entertainment sector cropped up there. Clearly, 5G is going to enable lots of media services. I guess my question is in two parts. What do you think the killer applications might be? And then specifically, is this going to enable operators to compete with broadcasts, or is it a collaboration? How do you see that unfolding?
Great.
Robert. That's a great question. So our two companies last year went out to an event, the U.S. Open Golf Tournament in Shinnecock Hills, New York, with a Intel-based camera to go put 5G millimeter wave at a venue for broadcast. They took a camera on the tee box on the green and took a live feed into the production truck and broadcasted back to the network. What was cool about that for the broadcaster was that opens up new verticals and content that they can't get to today. They can't drive a truck, those giant trucks that they park out, to every venue that they have assets or rights to. And so think about 5G as a service, a mobilized high throughput capability that you can stand up and turn down, shoot it, and move on. So I think the broadcast space is looking forward to new revenue generation streams.
Thank you, Robert.
Thanks,
yep.
A lot of latency in here. Have you noticed
that? A lot of latency.
When you think of the wireless industry, I've been around for 28 years, right? The biggest limitation to wireless was that link from the cell site to the mobile, right? You always had design for it. It was always the trickiest, didn't have the most capacity. When you look at 5G, millimeter wave, all of a sudden, because we're using the density of 4G, and you're talking about gigabit bandwidth, all of a sudden the whole dynamic of the whole industry changes to the point where you can do things to mobile that you could never do wirelessly and mobilely. So I think what we're going to see in this fourth industrial revolution is a complete flip on the side of the head of what was true before, or what was not possible before is now possible. So I think you're going to see that, and especially that industry. It's going to totally change the dynamic. Game changer. Okay?
Thanks, Mike. Arnaud.
Perhaps I should invite you to France, to Paris, because we have a complete 5G lab with 4G, 5G, so that you can play, because you know your business. So we already have many media companies that have joined us. So you are very, very welcome in Orange Gardens, where we have our main 5G lab. Welcome.
We'll take him up later. Come on.
I want to jump in a bit. In addition to everything they said, I was part of that U.S. Open. It was phenomenal. One thing that what we have done with this National Hockey League, actually they've done this. I actually saw this at the All-Star game. Me not being a hockey fan, I barely could see the puck because they're now tracking it. They actually overlaid the video on the data. It's the other way around. So NBC actually broadcasts this. You could see the puck going, you can see all the stats coming along, and the storytelling become much more phenomenal. If you think about, I grew up in China, people do not play hockey, but if you broadcast this on TV, now you're telling a story. It's not just about a game. You have a story of the player, you have a story of the game. You all of a sudden makes it much more transparent to the user experience is so much better. I really think it's a game changer.
Right. Thanks, Carolyn. I don't know about you, mate, but I like the emphasis on the storytelling and the enhanced storytelling aspect, which I've not heard before. I think that's
absolutely. It was a couple of words that were going through my head at the time. I thought, well, if you asked me to sum up, I'd say like our business is a collaborative and creative business, and it's all about telling stories. So when we see technologies like this, we get really, really excited. So I look forward to speaking to you all later, but thank you for the opportunity.
Great. Mike, thanks so much indeed.
Mike.
Thank you. Mike Quinn. We did start late, so we should run a little bit late, and we should ask anybody in the audience who also wants to ask a question of our panel. If there's anyone from the audience who would like to ask anything of our panel on this subject matter, please raise your hand, because now is an opportunity. The opportunity is going to last 5 seconds, counting down 4, 3, 2, 1. No takers. Oh, don't worry.
We got one.
Oh, we got one. Where?
Where? 4th, 5th row.
Oh, you're right. Oh, right in the light. I couldn't see you in the light. Pop up to the podium where we can hear you.
Well, hello everybody. I'm French. Nobody's perfect. My name is Serge Conessa. I'm the CEO and the founder of Immersion 4. I have a question because I haven't heard it here, which is, how about the energy consumption and the radio pollution of 5G within smart cities, according to the fact that today 50% of the population are living in cities, and it is anticipated, according to the McKinsey report, that 2/3 of the planet is going to be living by 2050 in cities.
Okay. Anyone want to tackle the smart cities, quality of life?
Yeah, I'll take a shot at it. Because we've been talking about this a lot in the U.S. About the ability to use the network. I mean, you talked about smart cities, you talked about traffic flow, you talked about how to route traffic, you talked about even just, being able to manage how people are walking along the streets, motorcycles are moving around, how to use autonomous vehicles, to integrate that with the camera systems, right, in a mech-type fashion, so that, not only is it flow better, but it's also safer than it's ever been before. So when I think of 5G and the latency that it's going to bring to the table, which, under 10 milliseconds, it's going to enable these types of innovations in cities to allow them to function smoother. And that includes the lighting, in terms of when it's used and it's utilized the best as it possibly can. So that's part of the whole smart city application that we've been pushing hard within the US.
Great, thank you, Mike. Arnaud, do you want to respond?
Yes, I take one of your points. A real subject, because of course the data usage is growing very fast, more than 60% every year for us. So we really want on each generation to have better energy efficiency. So of course, inside 5G today, 5G standard, we have some enhancement like advanced sleep mode, like the fact that we move from passive antenna where you have this energy everywhere to active antenna where you just put that where at the places where the usage is. So we still need improvement. Our industry still needs improvement. I think it's a serious subject, so we need to continue to work together on that as an industry, as a sector. But there are not so many sectors that has this kind of boom in terms of usage. So we need to address that as a society and really to have the right standard evolution, because 5G will evolve.
Great. Arnaud, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. Thanks very much. Thanks for your question. We've got to start wrapping things up. But before we wrap things up, I want to get the audience involved with a quick, very unscientific poll. We've been talking about use cases for 5G. I think we've got a little graphic we can pop on the screen. We've been asking ourselves what the use cases might be. But look, here's an example of a few industries here. Automotive, manufacturing, healthcare, media, smart cities, stroke transportation. So, show of hands as to which of these markets we think's got the most potential or most to gain from 5G. Show of hands or a whoop or whatever, make any noise you want. Let me go through them one by one. Who thinks it's automotive? Oh, a couple of hands, low volume. All right. Manufacturing. Whoa. Pretty strong showing for manufacturing. What about healthcare? It's close, but I don't think it caught manufacturing. Media and entertainment.
Yes.
Oh. Disproportionately large voice from somewhere, I think, skewing the results. And finally, what about smart cities and transportation? Oh, it's always good to end on a downer. Well, you know, congratulations, but it really does look like our audience thinks that manufacturing is the first market, and it's probably not too hard to disagree with that.
Because the payback is pretty obvious, kind of easy to assert.
Manufacturing is all about efficiency, so yeah, big driver.
Perfect for 5G. Great. Thank you all in our audience for joining us tonight. I'd like to thank all our guests. Caroline, thank you very much for joining us again. Mike, thanks for joining us this first time. Appreciate it.
It's a pleasure.
Arnaud, likewise. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Robert, thanks again for participating.
Thank you.
And Justin, I know you've been in some discomfort at the end here, but thank you so much for making the time and joining us. That's much appreciated.
Thank you.